Michelangelo. I know a lot about him. Life's work, political aspirations, him and the Pope, sexual orientation, the whole works, right? I bet you can't tell me what it smells like in the Sistine Chapel. You've never actually stood there and looked up at that beautiful ceiling. I ask you about love, you'd probably quote me a sonnet. You've never looked at a woman and been totally vulnerable. Known someone that could level you with her eyes. Feeling like God put an angel on earth just for you. And you wouldn't know what it's like to be her angel. To have that love for her, be there forever. You're an orphan, right? Do you think I'd know the first thing about how hard your life has been? How you feel? Who you are? Because I read Oliver Twist? Does that encapsulate you?
Good Will Hunting is a masterpiece with great acting from Robin Williams and Matt Damon. Matt Damon and Ben Affleck both wrote the script and have shown to be excellent screenplay writers, not only from this, but also from Ridley Scott's latest movie, The Last Duel. The movie goes into discussion about why some people have trust issues through the idea of abuse and abandonment, demonstrating that if a person throughout all their life, starting as a kid, feel like they're just a nobody and deserve hate, that person would look at their self as if they don't deserve or need anything fulfilling and are just a nobody. This movie captures a sense of realism and never feels like you're watching a knockoff film that thinks and knows what reality is but isn't. The dialogue sounds real, the monologues are real, every actor in here does a fantastic job of making you feel like you're eavesdropping in real conversations. To add to that, at times, the movie takes a while to get the plot going and spends it in places that don't really advance the story at all. That makes the film better in my eyes because it wants to try its best to give you the illusion of how realistic the movie feels. As for Robin Williams, this is one of my favorite performances from him because it shows the mixture of some of his comedic material with a little bit of seriousness that we don't often see too much from him at the time. This just shows how much of a great actor he is. But enough reviewing of the movie. What's the theological takeaway? In the Christian community, you might have heard this phrase before. Being a Christian is not about religion, it's about a relationship. If you haven't heard of this phrase before or had but are not sure what it means, with the help of this movie, we're going into discussion about the difference between religion and relationship, and what does it mean to have a true relationship with the biblical Christian God. First, let's talk about Matt Damon's character, Will Hunting. Will is written to be an impeccably knowledgeable person, but can also be very arrogant and has a pretty pompous attitude with how smart he is. His immense amount of knowledge puts him in a position where he assumes he knows everything about how the world works, how people will act, what's true and not true, but as much as he likes to brag about how he can answer anything thrown to him with the amounts of books he can read and remember, eventually he needs to come to the conclusion that just because he understands and can obtain book knowledge, that doesn't mean he knows people and life altogether. Truth be told, Will puts up barriers around everyone except his closest friends, and is secretly insecure about himself that he wouldn't let anybody else inside of his life because
All you see is every negative thing 10 miles down the road.
we can't necessarily blame him for this. He's had an abusive relationship with his father and grew up in a neighborhood where no one would lift him up except for his closest friends. However, it isn't until his journey with his therapist Sean and the beginning of his relationship with Skylar that forces him to be put in a position where he can no longer see things that would appear black and white to him. Proverbs chapter 18 verse 1 through 2 says this: "Whoever isolates himself seeks his own desires. He breaks out against all sound judgment. A fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion." In Christianity, there are cases where people can have the tendency of being dogmatically religious, such as studying and reading the Bible every second of every day. They read every history book about the lifetime of Jesus, any kind of theology book that pertains to the Bible, and assume they would know all of the answers to becoming a Christian. But the problem here is that no matter how much time time we spend obtaining knowledge, we instead spend most of our time preaching and understanding every question we have from the Bible, rather than acting out the answers we give within our livelihood. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that studying the Bible and reading a lot about theology is a bad thing. On the contrary, I implore it. But what we need to understand clearly here is that knowledge and wisdom, at least in my eyes, can be on the same side of the spectrum. And if we lean toward one side over the other, we can create an imbalance to how we're supposed to live in Christ. In the Bible, there's a section that talks about Jesus washing his disciples' feet. In the story, Peter told Jesus he may never wash his feet, but Jesus replied to him saying, "Unless I wash you, you have no part with me." Now, what this verse is talking about is salvation, where you would no longer be the same as you were before and have committed to be in an open relationship with Jesus Christ as our Lord and Savior. With Peter in this situation, I think a lot of us can see ourselves within his situation. We like to be our own person and not let anyone serve us, but do our best to serve them instead. Simon Peter in the Bible, at least in my eyes, has shown to have somewhat of a defensive mechanism where he assumes he knows a lot of how things can work, or wants to prove to others of how worthy Jesus is, that we should serve him and not have him serve us. But as shown in Matthew chapter 20, verse 28, he did not come to be served, but to serve. This story of Jesus and the disciples emulates a lot of the story arc between Sean and Will. The occupation that Sean has is being a therapist, and one of the things that's required of Will is for him to open up about himself and destroy the barriers he constantly keeps inside. In order for Sean to truly connect with him, understand him, or at least help him with any issues, Will needs to allow Sean to do what he is supposed to do, and that is to serve. Matthew chapter 11, verse 28 through 29 says this: "Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls." Before recognizing this, Will's old worldview was pretty rocky, to the point where his relationship with Skylar falls apart, and seeing if any healing aspect to it is left ambiguous. However, ever since he finally understood that he should be more open to others and stop assuming what others are like, he no longer engages in the dark side as he used to. Even his closest friend Chucky gets him to finally understand that Will doesn't know everything about Chucky as much as he thought. That scene is basically the nail to the coffin on how Will's old worldview is finally broken down, as he finally gives in to Sean's advice and looks at things anew. The last and probably the most famous scene out of anything in this film is when Sean says to Will, "It's not your fault." The reason why this scene is so impactful and carries a lot of emotional weight for the characters is because Sean wants Will to finally open himself up and to no longer be closed off, and to acknowledge that it's okay to let people know that he's been hurt or that he is hurt, to finally admit his feelings and pour it out of himself instead of bottling up inside as if he's a tough person that can handle it. He can finally let people inside of his life and no longer assume that he thinks they'll be fine, to let people help him if he like to, and to find trust in them again. He's able to take in chances, willing to take risk, or as Christians would like to call it, a leap of faith. And it's a prime example shown in the very last clip of the movie is him driving off to see Skylar, wondering if their relationship can be fixed. Will their relationship be fixed? We'll never know. But Will is no longer going to be on the fence and thinking that it won't. The point the film is trying to make is that he is willing to take that leap of faith and at least giving a chance to see if they could work. John chapter 12, verse 46 through 47 says this: "I have come as a light to shine in this dark world, so that all who put their trust in me will no longer remain in the dark. I will not judge those who hear me but don't obey me, for I have come to save the world and not to judge it." Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed what you see here, be sure to click that subscribe button and hit that notification bell right beside the subscribe button to be notified for future videos. And let me know in the comment section, what did you think of the movie, and what movie would you like for me to do a theological analysis on next?